What's up, Beckham and Wando? I'm Izzy Swight, and you're watching East Cooper Student News. Today on the show, South Carolina's former governor is making a run for the White House. We'll give you a student reaction and discover how one Wando student used an unfortunate break to take matters into his own hands.
1997.
All that and more on today's episode of East Cooper Student News, starting right now. Thanks for watching ECSN. I'm Izzy Swight. For many South Carolina students and residents, Nikki Haley is a well-known name. Last month, she became a more well-known name around the country after announcing a run for president. ECSN reporter Rachel Peak has more on Haley's announcement and tells us how some students have reacted to the news.
Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley announced that she will seek the Republican nomination for president on February 14th. She released a campaign video with a tweet reading, "Get excited. Time for a new generation. Let's do this." She is the first person to officially announce a run against former President Donald Trump in the upcoming election. In her campaign video, she argues that being a daughter of immigrant parents who are neither white nor black make her uniquely qualified to deal with social race issues in America. She also argues that she has the experience to stand up to China and Russia on foreign policy. If she wins, she would be the first female president and the first South Carolinian to be president.
I really like the fact that Nikki Haley is running for office. I think, for one, having someone from South Carolina represent the government is really, really cool. I also think she has a ton of experience working for the government, specifically working with foreign relations, which I think is really important in times like today. So I'm, pretty happy that she's doing it.
I think it's really cool because she's from South Carolina.
So I feel like it's honestly refreshing seeing her run for president because I think it's gonna bring a new perspective. I think she's with specifically the younger age demographic, and her being a woman, I think that's refreshing considering, it's kind of just a bunch of old men right now.
I think it's cool that we have a female running for president and she's a Clemson alumni.
Since announcing her run, The Hill says right now 6% of Republicans surveyed would vote for her in a primary election. The Hill says of the same survey, 50% would vote for Donald Trump in a primary. The last South Carolinian to have a legitimate shot at the White House came in 1948 when Strom Thurmond finished third as a member of the Dixiecrat Party. Reporting for ECSN, I'm Rachel Peak.
Thanks, Rachel. There's still a long way to go. Before she can run in the general election, she'll have to beat out other Republican candidates in the primaries starting early next year. Closer to home, one Wando student caught our attention here at ECSN. Hunter Lustig is a Wando senior, and on top of balancing his education, has been working on a big project you don't see from many kids his age. ECSN reporter Liz Balestrini spent some time with Hunter and tells us how he's putting a childhood hobby into a real-life application.
Hunter Lustig is a senior at Wando. Each day, like many kids, Hunter drove his car to school. His car is a 1997 Mustang Cobra. It's a 25-year-old car, and one day, heading home from school, something happened to it.
The engine locked up on me. Lost oil pressure.
So Hunter did what anyone would do. He pulled over.
And it was idling fine. There was no knocking at idle. As soon as you gave it gas, it sounded awful.
Hunter was able to get the car home. He took a look at the engine and saw several problems.
Stuck a little camera down in the engine, and we saw a crack in one of the pistons. A little crack and a little hole the size of your pinky fingernail.
Like most people, he took it to the shop.
It was in the shop for about 6 months, and we were like, you know what, we're just gonna take it back home.
That's when Hunter deviated from what most people would do. He started working on the car by himself.
I've taken the old engine out, laid it on the ground, and I have a new engine from a 95 Lincoln Mark 8 on a stand over there. And I have taken the timing chain cover off, I've taken the heads off, valve covers, checked out the engine.
That's a lot more complicated than changing the oil or brakes, but Hunter was able to take on the work because of his dad.
And he would just be out there working on it all the time. And I remember helping him out sometimes. Obviously, I was too young to help, too young to know what I was doing. Helping him with working on cars also helped me grow my passion for cars. I mean, I loved taking the wheels off and replacing the brake pads. Just simple stuff like that was really fun. I mean, even big stuff like this, I love doing it. Even though it stresses me out, I really do love doing this.
It was that knowledge that helped him change his engine and get back on the road, or so he thought.
I drove the car for about 2 months, absolutely zero issues. And then one day I heard a knocking sound from the engine, and I was like, oh my God, there's no way.
Hunter is still working on this classic Mustang and is currently putting on the engine and transmission. Reporting for ECSN, I'm Liz Balestrini.
Thanks, Liz. While Hunter used his extensive knowledge of cars to make those repairs, other kids are getting more formal auto repair training as a part of the Auto Tech program at the CAS. Last week, Auto Tech teacher Mr. Streets recognized Calvin Snipe for one of the East Cooper CAS student spotlights. He says Calvin has done great work to learn everything he can about fixing cars as a member of the Auto Tech program.
It feels pretty good. It makes me feel like all the work that I'm doing inside here is paying off, and later on down the road, I know if I ever do this as a job, I'll know what I'm doing because I'm in here.
What I generally look for when it comes to finding the best auto tech students are guys that are dedicated to what we do, that I can trust, I can depend on, that are always involved, that are enthusiastic, that they love to jump into whatever the project is today, and work hard and do the job. And Calvin absolutely is one of those.
Over in engineering, Mr. Scholander had several students complete a very complicated project where they had to program an electronic device to display their birthday. Those students were Brendan Breen, Lily Harrell, Anthony Latanzio, Sydney Mahan, Will Meany, Kirsten Miller, and Richard Stewart.
I mean, it feels really good knowing that, like, coming in early before class, working after class, making sure that the work is like the best quality that it can be, and being recognized for that hard work is honestly really rewarding.
Basically programming this hardware to tell it what to do and what not to do. And this was kind of like our final project for this part of the unit, which was to use a 7-segment display and logic gates to display our date of birth while counting up in binary.
Because of the way binary coding works, and the fact that the students have different birthdays, Scholander says each of the students had to take different steps to complete their project. Getting real job skills is one of the biggest missions over here at the CAS. But over at Wando, the Exceptional Education Department is also trying to get their students some hands-on job skills. Wando's Exceptional Education class has opened up the Special Blend Cafe, which is a morning coffee shop where these students are serving up everything from coffee and bagels to a friendly smile in the mornings.
It exposes them to a lot of job skills that they can take with them after they graduate Wando High School. Everything from money handling, customer service, food handling, running a business, making sure we have enough inventory for the business. The list goes on.
The cafe is located across from the gym. Make sure to stop by in the mornings. Across town, Beckham students just had their spring dance. The spring dance was a Western theme with a different kind of spin. The Bengals Student Council brought back an old tradition. Instead of a regular dance where boys traditionally ask the girls to be their dates, last week's dance was a Sadie Hawkins, where girls had to ask the boys. Student council members said they thought it would be a fun switch.
We did homecoming in the fall, and it was fun. It was a really good time, but we wanted to do something a little different, and most schools do a semi-formal. But in the upstate, a lot of the schools do Sadie Hawkins. So the concept of it, it's the same kind of dance, it's just roles reverse. Different people ask different people, but it's still the same concept, something new, something different. Typically it's more of a Western style dance, but you can make it however you want. And so we're just playing with it, seeing how it goes, and it should be a good time.
We've had a lot of positive responses. We wanted the girls to have a chance to ask the boys just because we thought it was different than, you know, your typical prom post or promposal or homecoming. But the tradition of Sadie Hawkins is for the girls to ask the boys.
And speaking of breaking tradition, if you've gone to a high school wrestling match, you might have noticed more and more girls participating in the sport that was traditionally dominated by boys. Wrestling is one of the fastest growing sports in the country for girls. And ECSN reporter Maddie Richmond tells us how some Wando girls found themselves on the wrestling mat this season.
In the middle of a bunch of boys groping the mat, you'll see a couple of girls named Cassidy Warren and Olivia Martin practicing wrestling moves alongside team. Olivia tried out for Wando basketball and didn't make it. Her teacher, Coach Snyder, heard the news and thought she might want to try another sport.
Coach Snyder pretty much just asked me if I wanted to do it, and I didn't make the basketball team, so I joined wrestling.
Cassidy has a similar story. At her old school, she didn't make the basketball team, so she started wrestling. After moving to Wando, she's happy to keep working on the mat.
It's a fun atmosphere to be around everyone, and I just love the sport and the resilience it takes.
It might be surprising to know Wando has 5 girls who wrestle, but for their coach, having girls on the team is nothing new. Coach Snyder has had girls on the team several times in the past 10 years.
Not a lot of them stay. They usually come out and try it and realize that it is a very tough sport.
Between 1990 and 2007, the number of girl wrestlers increased from 112 to more than 14,000 nationwide. That means more coaches like Snyder are working with athletes of both genders at the same time, and he works hard to stay consistent.
Not much. I get that question a lot. People say, well, do you coach them differently? No. That's the nice thing, like I just said, they don't get treated any different. The guys aren't like, oh, this is a girl, I'm gonna go and beat her up or anything like that, because we teach the same moves we teach everybody else. Everybody does learn a little bit differently, and there'll be times where we'll share different moves that we've showed with everybody, but maybe somebody might be better at it than somebody else.
Right now, there aren't enough girls to have a girls-only team. For now, both boys and girls will continue to practice together. Cassie and Olivia are completely fine with that. They like working with the boys.
Doesn't really feel any different from any other sport. I mean, boys are boys, so that's that. But it's fun to be with the girls and hang out with them. I mean, you don't really think about it. You kind of just wrestle. I mean, sometimes they're built different, so they're stronger sometimes, but just work hard and it's not much different.
This year is the first year the girls will have a girls tournament to compete in with others around the state of South Carolina. Reporting for ECSN, I'm Maddie Richmond.
Thanks, Maddie. Wrestling season just finished this past weekend with the individual state duels. Congratulations to all the East Cooper wrestlers who qualified. We told you on our last show that Wando boys basketball made it to the playoffs. On February 16th, the Warriors faced off against Sockasty in the first round of the playoffs. In the fourth quarter, the Braves hit a three-pointer with 7 seconds left on the clock to take a 1-point lead. Wando called a timeout for one last play, and then, after long inbounds passed to the middle of the court, Cooper Biller finds himself open on the baseline, pumps fakes, and drains a three as the Warriors went on to win 64-62. It was Wando's first playoff win since 2015. Wando lost a tough game in the second round to Somerville to end their season. And with that, ECSN will keep you updated on all the spring sports getting underway this month. That's all for ECSN today. If you like our show and you want to be a part of it, you can apply by scanning the QR code on your screen. The code will take you to a Google form, and you can select ECSN on the application. You need some teacher references and a link to some work that you've done that demonstrates some video or writing skills. We hope to see you on our staff next year. Signing off for ECSN, I'm Izzy Swite.